Hello there, I'm Anthony Delaporta. I'm an instructor and coach and consultant in all things in project management, from recovery to running programs up to portfolio, and an instructor as well. What I want to do in this particular session is looking at the new supposedly concept of agile. Right? Now, interesting enough, agile means a lot of different things to different people for various reasons. A lot is to do with interpretation, which is what I hope to be able to cover up in this particular short video about that. Okay, but what we're looking at in agile really is agility. And what does agility mean? It means being flexible. Now, be careful. That does not mean being flexible in the sense of what I need to use for documents. That's tailoring, and that's a different concept. Right? What we're talking about here is being flexible in responding to changes within the project. Now, there's a new concept. So what are we talking about here? First of all, let's have a look. What do we run a project for? We run a project to deliver a beneficial change. Deliver a benefit for the business. Right? To deliver a benefit for the business. And this actually means delivering the right solution that the business actually need. Right? So what we're saying here is compared to traditional classic approaches, which people term the waterfall, which is a very wrong term to use, quite frankly, in that we have all the specifications, all the design up front, we go full trot, deliver all that, and then fling it over the fence at the end. Well, a lot can happen between the moment we sign off how we're going to build it, at the beginning of the project, in initiating, planning, design, whatever you want to call it, to the moment we hand it over at the end. And this is the problem. Right? It's always been the problem, but in today's environment, it is even more so. Because why? Things change, and therefore we need to respond to change. Now, ironically, projects, one of the characteristics of projects is about change, right? So we need to understand that we have change going on within the project, right? Within the project. Now, what we mean by that is that we have change within it, scope change. And why do we have scope change? Because the business may change their mind. Now, what is wrong with that? Absolutely nothing. In fact, that's very important. So we've got to think about two things here within the project delivery timeframe. First of all, is responding to the change of the scope itself. How do we do that? And the other thing is responding to what the business need is, right? So we have to understand what is the business need here. Right? And the business need here is to have the beneficial change at the end of the project. This is absolutely vital. There's no point in delivering what thing at the beginning of the scope that we had there at the beginning of the project, because if that turns out not to work, or does not deliver the beneficial change they want, then we've wasted the whole time of the project. It's a failed project. Right? So what we have to look at here is how do we handle this? Well, the interesting thing is that the agile umbrella incorporates and includes a certain number of techniques that help us do this. Now, some of us are going to say, well, we've been doing that anyway. Well, of course we have. Within project delivery, we've had to do that. So we're going to look at a couple of those things in a moment. So at the core of all this is how do we change the scope within it? Well, the first thing to do really is to understand that let's build it a little bit at a time. This does two things. You build a bit at a time, and it allows the business to see, A, the functionality working and building, but more importantly, it allows the business to see how the solution is going to work for them from a point of the change they want, the benefit they want at the end of the project. So this means two things. The people building the solution, running the project, need to understand that it's got to have that change and accept change throughout the project. The other thing is the business need to accept that they need to have a lot more involvement at the right level with the right authority. You're not going to get the guy who's owning the whole project and paying for it coming down every day looking at the build. Of course you don't. You have a representative on the team to do that. But depending on the level of need and the level of authority required for it, then that may happen sometimes. Okay, so it's understanding that. But this is the point. The team need to be flexible in the way they run the builds, in other words, evolve the solution and accept that change may come within it and incorporate the change while we're going through the project. Right? And the business needs to be involved within that to ensure that the solution they're getting is going to work for them. Because, if we've got a 6-year project, a lot of things can happen in the old Thunderbird thing. Anything can happen in the next half hour. This is a serious point. We're going through the project. The marketplace is changing out there rapidly. We need to be able to respond to it. Right? The bottom line is most of it's up in here. It's how we psychologically approach it. Right? Get away from this, command and control, this idea that we can't change things. Of course you can. Just make sure that it has the authoritative change in place. Even delivering on time. Right? That time frame could actually change, but we've got to ensure that that time frame fits within the need of the business, because if we go beyond the right time frame, then the whole project could be negated, and that could be a wasted project and another failed project. So you need to consider that. Right? And what we're going to look in a moment is how do we manage all that, because you're going to say, yeah, but how do we do that traditionally? Things always gone on time and costs. Yes, but you can lock that in to a certain extent. Time is more critical than costs. Right? Because time to market, etc., that is more critical, like legislative change, for instance, or compliance and stuff, this control. So how do we do this? Important to know that we need to change within the project and handle that change as we go through. The first thing is what we do is we use iterative development to build the solution. Iterations, iterative development. We build a bit at a time, right? We build the project a bit at a time. We need to build the solution and even the specific product or requirement, really. We'll look at that requirement in a minute. A bit at a time. We build a little piece, get it checked functionally, get it checked from a business perspective. And we keep doing that as we go through, right? And we can control all that by using a time box, because you're going to say, well, yes, but it can go on and on and on. No, we control it through a time box. We lock the time frame in so we can't go beyond it, right? And from all that, what we then use is the technique of Moscow or some similar mechanism for prioritization. Prioritization, right? And that does two things. It helps us to understand the need, right? The priority requirements to deliver the project's priority requirements, or the products, if you like. This is what we call the musts at the moment, if you like, the must-haves. That's what I must deliver for the solution to work. But it also provides us something very important too, contingency. Right? And that's the stuff I don't need to actually deliver. I could leave it out. A bit painful on the shoulds, for instance, like leaving the jam out of a sponge cake, for example. But the candles I don't need right now, especially if it's a wedding cake. Don't have candles on the wedding cake. The point is, I have a contingency in the scope. And this is where it works. So that golden triangle gets flipped around, if you like. Right? We have contingency in the scope. And that allows me to deliver what I must deliver and use the time that I had allocated to other requirements that I don't really need right now to pull back in. Because if I've got an additional piece of scope that I must deliver on top of what was originally planned for, if I can't change the time frame, I can put that in there and take something out, right? And that out is the scope bit I can take out. And this is how we control. But the important thing is that as we go through the project, we use these techniques to be flexible within the project to deliver the solution that delivers the benefit that the business actually need, and change the scope as we go through. Right? And this is what really agility is about. Up here in the head, a lot of it, but it's having the toolkit to enable you to do that, and how we use the toolkit. So there are other video sessions that we have done here that look at why we're running the project, what we need to deliver, what we want to get out of it, the beneficial change, and how we go about it. And we do the same thing on these. Why do we use iterative development? What's it actually doing? And how do we go about using it? The same for these three major techniques. They've been around a long time, right? And this is absolutely crucial. This is about delivering. It's not a case of not using plans or documents or anything else. Yes, you do. If you're running a project, you must have a business case. You must have a plan to run to. The plan, remember, is a snapshot at a point in time. But at least you understand what you're doing, and you've sat down and worked collaboratively to understand and agree what you're doing. This is absolutely vital too, okay? So this is part of it. These techniques have been around for a very long time, just not being used properly. Now somebody's raised the awareness, very good. And this is what we mean by delivering from an agile perspective. Right? Not because we want to deliver the products without having any control on them or any business case or any plan. This is not what we mean. It's about being flexible in the way we handle the scope and deliver the right solution that the business needs to be able to realize the beneficial change they want out of it, and adapt and adjust the scope as we go through the project. So by the time we get to the end of it, it is all signed off and doing exactly what we expected it to do from the beginning. Hopefully we get to the end. So hopefully that's ironed out quite a lot of different understandings and views on what we mean by agile. There are different techniques which we look in different approaches I should say, which we look in other video sessions, like Scrum. But Scrum's a product delivery mechanism. You can use it under projects as long as you've got the governance in place. And this is what's happening here, is the governance, as we said. The business looking at how's it working for them to what they need to do. Do we still think it's going to be worth the investment? This is crucial. And at the same time, the team making sure that the build works functionally so it does what it expects it to do as well to support the business change. So I hope that's cleared up a few different misconceptions and misunderstanding. Thank you.